Happy 59th Independence Anniversary. I guess we can say that. Or can we? Despite our numerous developmental challenges, some say we're making progress. Others would ask, what kind of progress? Now, how much progress has been made in the different sectors like health, education, infrastructural development, agriculture, power, and so on? While we reflect on progress in these different sectors, we must not forget the progress of togetherness and love. The independence was demanded by our fathers, believing that we had come of age and could stand on our own as one. 59 years after, would we say that some would say rather that we appear more divided than ever? Now, looking ahead with what's on ground currently, does it appear that we're making plans for the future, or are we just living for the now? Very true that every nation goes through challenges, but there is nothing the country is going through right now that probably other nations haven't been through. So the question is, are we refusing to learn, or do we not see what other nations are doing with their wealth? There is no doubt that a crippling global economic crisis involving the capital and real estate markets, oil prices have been on the decline, putting the future of the only significant export item of the country in danger. So 59 years of corruption, impunity, poverty, unemployment, insecurity, which some say should be blamed on past and present leaders. Well, welcome to Hard Copy. My name is Terry Ikumi. To speak on Nigeria at 59, my guest is the former Speaker of the House of Representatives from 1999 till 2003, Right Honorable Gali Umar Naba. Welcome to Hard Copy.
Thank you very much.
So nice to see you in the public space once again. It's been a while since you left office in 2003, and then you attempted to contest for the governorship election, I think in 2007. Before we go into the main conversation of the day, I'd like to take you up on what you said at the the House of Representatives during the inauguration of the special and standing committees of the House. You said to them that they are not auditors and they should stop going to MDAs in the process of carrying out the oversight function. Could you explain that a little more?
Well, the legislature is the most important arm of governance, and therefore the members of the legislature must preserve their respect, both their own personal respect and the institutional respect that is necessary for other people to follow. And I believe that oversight does not mean visiting MDAs to look at their books or to chatter with them. That is for auditors. The legislature has to deal with the laws and policy, and that the legislature should from time to time call the MDAs to come to them rather than the legislators going to the MDAs, because there is this perception by the larger community that the legislators go to the MDAs in order to be asking them to give them money and things like that. And this is not good for the respect of the legislature. So that was why I told them that they should not be in that habit. They don't have to do that.
All right, let's go to the business of the day now. It's 59 years of independence. You were Speaker right from when we returned from military rule in 1999 till 2003. As someone who's been around, if you look back at the country, 59 years, what would you say we've got right or wrong?
If you look at 20 years today without any interruption by the military, it's quite some progress. However, what is most important is to see that the nation becomes more united.
So you don't think that we've made progress in the area of unity?
Our expectation is that in 20 years from 1999, Nigeria should be more united because of the fact of democracy. And I believe that to a large extent, we have achieved that because it is impossible for us to become one people. And when I say one people, what I mean is that it is impossible for us to all become, because we have this diversity in religion, in culture, in ethnicity, we can't all share one ethnicity because we have been different. But what is important is that we must have a shared objective, shared goals. And there must be acceptance, there must be tolerance, and there must be consideration. These are very, very important. I've been a member of the legislature, and I have friends in the legislature who had come from various parts of the country. Today, after 20 years together, we have become like brothers and sisters, and we share a lot of things, even private things together. And it's very interesting that me as a person, sometimes I don't feel comfortable sharing my troubles with even my relations or friends from where I come from. I rather share them with sometimes my deputy, who is from the south, or some of my friends from the southeast or southwest, and there is the same feeling on their own part.
Do you feel...
So I think that this is what we consider unity.
Just a second. Do you feel like what you shared with members of the legislature is being shared across the country? I ask that because, in my opening, I said our founding fathers clamored for independence because they were sure that the country was ready to stand as one. Now, following what has happened, or what's been happening in recent times, we've seen diverse cases of killings, kidnappings, we've seen divisions along religious and tribal lines. Do you think that the country appears united in comparison with with the level of unity we had before now?
Well, you are talking about something different. You see, the issue of unity is something else. The issue of governance is another thing. No doubt, we have been contending with the issue of bad governance, and that is the reason we are having all these challenges. Banditry, insurgency, kidnappings. These are things that have to do with bad governance.
We also have communal clashes.
Leading to the failure of... communal clashes have been with us for centuries. In a particular state, you'll see that, you'll find out that a particular community is not at peace with another community. This is prevalent all over the country. Neighbors from the same state, from the same local government. I dealt with some of these problems when I was speaker. When in the southeast, we have these kinds of problems from the, Agumeri and their neighbors. In the southwest, we have these issues. Even in my Kano state, we have these issues among neighbors. So these are not things that we consider to be happening because of lack of unity in the country. When someone from the southwest, talks about unity, what he means, I believe, is that he means unity unity among the various zones of the country, members of the zones.
When we talk about unity in the country, and you would agree with me that the present administration has been accused, the President Buhari has been accused of causing more disunity in the country than ever. So I'm asking, if we look at how united we had been in the past and compare that to now, would we say we're making progress after 59 years of being together?
I cannot say that there are feelings, on the part of a section of Nigerians that Nigeria is not as united as it is supposed to be. You know, I share those feelings. It is true. And many things had happened, and my take is that certain things should take place, so that, because when you compete for power, it's because there is over-concentration somewhere. And I believe that the power of the federal government is too much.
So you support the call for restructuring?
The issue that people mostly speak about is the presidency, because it is too powerful. People just speak about the presidency whenever they want to complain that one section of the country is marginalizing other sections of the country. But you have the legislature, where powers are distributed among the zones also, you know, and that perception that the presidency is too powerful is correct, and that it is not just the presidency, it's the structure of governance in the country.
Now, I asked if you support restructuring because that's been some of the biggest clamors when you mention concentration of power and revenue sharing of resources as well. Considering how it seems like 59 years and some areas do not experience development as they should, and states are saying that some of the things that should have been, that is due them, are not coming to them. Should we be talking about restructuring now after 59 years?
Well, when you spend 59 years, you know, doing something, I think it is wise for you to look at it again and again and again. 59 years is a lot of time. And I believe that when you live together with other people, there must be some degree of sincerity. There must be some degree of justice, fairness, equity. And every time how that society moves on must be compared against the backdrop of these adjectives, you know, unity, equity, justice, because these are the basis, you know, with which human society make progress. And if any section in that community cries out, you know, that cry must be looked at with some compassion. It should not be dismissed. Look at it with some compassion. And I believe that some restructuring is necessary. I said this earlier in one of your programs here, that in my state we have an agricultural program which was taken over by the federal government in 1975. And what was achieved by my state with that program in 9 years, from 1968 to 1975, has not been achieved by the federal government after it took over the program in 1975 to date. That is more than 40 years. And in these 40 years, there have been 4 heads of state from the north, 2 of them from Kano. And we have not achieved what was set out to achieve. And I think this has to do with the structure. If that program had been left in the hands of my state, it would have achieved what it was set out to achieve. It's an irrigation program that was supposed to start from the southern part of Kano up to the fringes of Jigawa state.
Well, let's go for a quick break.
So if there is a restructure...
Let's go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll conclude shortly. We'll take a break and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to Hard Copy. I am speaking with the former Speaker of the House of Representatives on 59 years of Nigeria's independence, Gali Umar Naba. Let's go back to our conversation on restructuring, which you were making a very valid point. I'll just quickly let you land.
So what I was trying to say was that each state or each region or each zone has its own issues. And some trade-off is necessary. And those groups advocating for restructuring, I think what they are supposed to do is to not only consider the benefits of restructuring, where these benefits affect where they come from. I think what they must do is to tour the country and also expose the benefits of restructuring to other sections of the country.
When you look at the leaders we've had in the past, clearly everyone came with one or two policies from past till present. Are there policies that you saw in the past or policies that you're seeing now that you think we should have sustained or should sustain that would help us in our developmental strides?
Well, the problem is that most of the policies that started by one regime, the next regime comes to terminate them. So you cannot adequately measure the success of any program or lack of success. But what I know is that for any program to succeed, it must be allowed, it must be allowed on a long-term basis to thrive. And that is when you measure its success or not. So what I believe is that we must take certain steps for us to be able to live with ourselves as honestly as possible, so that we can begin to have even these programs that we can assess in time. For example, river basins were established by the federal government, and those regional programs were taken over by the federal government. And my understanding is that in most of the catchment areas of those river basins, it's not all a success. If these programs had been left in the hands of the states that the programs were taken over from, they would have performed better. And I've experienced this, I've seen it, and I believe that these programs must be returned to their states of origin, and the federal government should hands off them. The Ministry of Water Resources should instead be providing the resources for these programs to the states, so that the states, they can be the mainstay of most of these states' economy.
When you look at the programs that the federal successive governments have put in place to at least deal with the issue of poverty, how well would you say we are fared in poverty eradication, especially considering that only last year we declared the poverty capital of the world?
Well, you see, most of these policies are being conceived against the backdrop of the increase in population in the country. Our population has exploded to the extent that no matter the measures that had been taken in the past, you still see failure. There is some degree of success, but you can see that the success only relates to a few individuals. And that is why I say that this restructuring is important, because state governments and local governments are nearer to the people than the federal government. You can't stay in Abuja and begin to take measures for almost 200 people in almost all sectors.
But that also brings to question what state governments are doing with the resources at their disposal. There are states where local governments are almost non-existent. So the funds go to them. Funds meant for local governments go into the joint account. But the impact is still not felt. So the question is still...
You see, that issue has to do with bad governance, honestly. Since we started this democracy in 1999, and I had said this in various fora, that in most of our local governments, there's almost no governance. You find out that when resources are handed over to the state governments to be distributed to the local governments, state governors often don't give these resources to the local governments. And because of that, there is almost no governance in the local governments. And where the state governments even give them the resources, you know, resources are shared among the personnel. They leave the local government. They all have hotel rooms in the states, you know, in the state capitals, where they move, and they don't go back until another round of money comes through. So the idea of local government reforms in 1976 must be revisited, and then again, the quality of people that should be in governance at the local government level should be looked at. And this must be looked at also in all the tiers of governance. You see, I had spoken and talked to a lot of people about the state of our democracy. And I believe that one of the most important measures we must take in order to ensure that we have quality leadership is that the people of this country must be mobilized, must be exposed to our democracy. People don't know it. People don't know the reason for it. If people don't know the philosophy behind it and they are carried along in implementing it, we'll always, you know, we'll always fail. You can see that when you talk to political party leaders at the world level, at the local government level, ask some of them, what is the relationship between the executive arm and the legislative arm? They don't know. Why are we practicing democracy? Beyond election and the fact that in democracies you have civilians at the helm, they don't know why we are practicing democracy. You know, a lot of these things. So it must be exposed to the people.
It's almost easy for us to, you know, point out some of the areas where we think we're not doing well. But I think one of the things we should be looking out for is the future. Looking at the future, especially at the post-crude oil era that is most likely going to hit us in the years to come, and the country's resolve to diversify. Do you think that we're putting laid down plans that will help us in our drive to have a sustainable future?
We don't have the kind of leadership that will give us what you are talking about. And where we have, you'll see that the people that will drive what you are talking about are not there. So the country needs to be mobilized. We need to be mobilized. We must have the kinds of people, whether it is in the executive arm or in the legislature or in the states as governors. You ought to have people that know the importance of mobilizing the whole country behind what we are trying to do. Because even where you take measures to contain certain things, you find out that people at certain level are running around what is supposed to be done. So these are some of the problems bedeviling the development of this country.
Right Honorable Gali Umar Naba, thank you so much. I wish we had more time, but I'd like to thank you so much for finding time to come speak with us on Hard Copy.
Thank you very much.
Well, thanks for watching. Do send feedback to hardcopy@channelstv.com or tweet at us at CTV Hardcopy. I'm Terry Ikumi. Goodbye.